No. If a woman shows up now in modern time, she's probably going to come with debt. She may even come with a child. And she's going to come with experience and history that you had nothing to do with. So why is that your responsibility? I don't subscribe to it. I don't support it. And I don't think men need to sit here and allow other people to paint a narrative and try to weigh and measure your manhood where you have ended up financially. You strive, gentlemen, to be your absolute best. You strive to create what it is that you want to create for your lifestyle, your dreams, your goals, your outlook, your imprint on society. If a woman comes along that path, comes along that way and wants to join forces and be a part of your program, great. What up, YouTube? This is Daniel Rucker with Truth Table. Welcome to the table. Today, I'm going to be reviewing a video on TikTok because, I get inspiration from everywhere. And this particular video just had me dying. It had me laughing. It is good to laugh, gentlemen. Laughing is free. You don't even have to pay for it necessarily in all cases. But I wanted to share with you guys, and then we're going to get into it because there is a message behind it. So, without further ado,
is he right or wrong?
Baby, how do you feel about a man paying all of a woman's bills?
Whoa. A man paying, pause that. A man paying all the bills?
All the bills.
I want my woman to feel needed. So if I pay all the bills, I don't need you. And that's the sense of women fought for them rights. Frederick Douglass, if you look it up in the history books, Frederick Douglass learned how to read, write, and everything, low. Then he fought for women's rights. So why would I let that man hard work go in vain? Huh? I need you to get that bag. Get the bag.
You know what? Bye. Bye.
Get the bag.
That's how me laughing. You know a man is serious when he put his head down and he start using his hand. The inflection in his voice. This skit was hilarious. The question was funny. His response was hilarious. But I wanted to talk about it. There's a lot of things that I share that are consistent in the outlook and the perspective of what's going on in the manosphere, what's going on in the red pill space, what's going on with men alike, what's going on in this overall movement as far as men finding their voice, men starting to speak on their gripes, their discrepancies, their issues, their concerns. I will say though, I find myself personally conflicted. And the main reason, and this will be the first time I admit this actually on camera, I never heard before in my life, prior to Mr. Kevin Samuels mentioning it, that a man was solely responsible for paying all the bills. Now, I was intrigued by this because I was like, I had to sit back because I believed I was very, clear on manhood. I believed that I had found a place and position in my masculinity and my level of provision and so on and so forth that was pretty concrete. First time I've ever heard a man say, you can't expect this unless you do this. Because I personally had never experienced that. Now, being as how I was raised with my father, my dad provided for the most part. But I remember my mom also working. I think for the first almost decade or so, she didn't work. So she stayed home, took care of me, my brother, my sister. My dad took care of the bills, and that's what it was. But at some point, she went back to the workforce. The point I'm trying to make is the first time I heard it was when Kevin Samuels started talking about it. And now it's kind of become a thing. Now, that's not to say that it hasn't always been a thing. I just personally never subscribed to that vision. Why I wanted to, respond to this video, one, it was hilarious, and I hope you guys found it as funny as I did, but also there's a message behind it. Because we live in a time now that involves more awareness of what's going on in social circles, what's going on in dating practices, what's going on in people's households. And one of the things that is consistently being shared is this whole provision thing that men are expected to provide 100% of the finances when they're involving themselves with a woman. The thing that is I find kind of interesting about that perspective is that I do understand it, and I've grown to even believe it to be true for the most part. And I'm gonna explain to you why. I think the structure that at one time existed was set up to where a man was going to provide because a man had went to another man and inquired about a wife. A man back in the day would inquire to another man about a wife. He was at a point of his life to where he was seeking to either be married, or the fathers would be discussing business. And one of the trades of business of incorporating or conjoining, two conglomerates, what is it called? Acquisition, was marriage. That was the original platform of it. Through that, though, was not an individual one-on-one, I date her, she dates me, we date multiple people, we live our life as single people, and then at one point in our life we decide to get married. And see, this is why I wanted to talk about this particular video, because I think that we as a people, I'm talking all of us, men, women alike, are trying to modernize, trying to live in a modern time with old practices. Now, with me saying that, do I believe that if a man is capable financially of taking care of all the bills, he should? Sure, if that's what he decides to do. If that's what works for his lifestyle, if that's what works for her, if that's what works for their collective goals and things that they're trying to work towards, then sure. It really, to me, shouldn't be a financial situation if the resources are present, if the vastness of, the party's paycheck, salary, investments, whatever, if it yields them the ability to where the man is in the provision position and he can provide for her more than she can provide for herself, and that's what he decides to do, and she's okay with it, sure. But this whole standard that you cannot call yourself a man or a man of a certain level if you are not capable of providing all of the resources, I think is asinine. I think it's problematic. And I also believe that it's counterproductive, mainly because we live in a society that has created a complete divide in what was the original structure when this was set as the standard for manhood. See, the standard was there because a man was acquiring a woman that did not come with kids, that did not come with debt, that did not come with her own individual lifestyle. Women back in the day, gentlemen, went from one household of protection to another household of protection. And even if she went from that one household of protection to another household of protection and her husband died, through natural causes, through war, through whatever was going on in that particular time in life, whether it was the Elizabethan era, whether it was the beginning of the century, that woman would still go from that protection and that husband being removed, however he was removed, to another man's protection. It was always a pass along of the woman. Never before were women designed or allowed to go out into the free world, rack up debt, get an education, build certain levels of credibility, build certain, credit lines and so on and so forth, car notes and house notes and anything. They weren't allowed to do that. And then say that after I live my individual life, when I decide that I don't want to do this by myself anymore, some man is going to come along who's going to make enough money for himself, make enough money for me, make enough money potentially for the children that I had prior to meeting this man, and then alleviate me of all of my financial responsibilities that I created prior to him showing up. Make it make sense. And I would think that's the only pushback I have in regards to Kevin Samuels' presentation of this masculine position. Because to tell men that they are not men, if they are not capable of financially eliminating modern women from the life that they chose to live prior to meeting this husband or provider, whichever role you want to play, I think is problematic. I totally will understand if a man met a woman and at the beginning of her life, and what I mean the beginning of her life, at whatever stage that she is deemed an adult, and she decides to now jump on that man's program prior to her making her own individual decisions, prior to her making and creating a life that she built. And she says, okay, at 18, I'm with him and he's going to take care of me. I totally understand. I agree with that. I even support that. But that is not the equation that we have today. We have women who are living their lives. We have women who are going out and doing whatever it is they want to do. And they're allowed to do that. I support that as well. But how are they allowed to do that, gentlemen? And then turn around at some point in their life, 26, 27, 32, 35, 40, whatever, after they done created a life that was not considered of you because she didn't know you. She wasn't even thinking about you, but she decided to live her life in a way that now built financial responsibility. So now she gets to bake in automatic financial responsibility at a level high enough to where she says that now if I'm going to deal with a man, I have to deal with a man that is going to now meet and exceed and absolve me of what I created. Otherwise, he's not a man. Otherwise, he is not worthy of being with me. That makes absolutely no sense. And I think the reason why it's problematic is because there's not enough of the understanding of how we got to the expectation that men are supposed to take care of all the bills, that men are supposed to create. See, I believe society spends a lot of time doing all they can to invalidate what a man is, what men are capable of, what men's value is. And value, gentlemen, don't get it twisted, doesn't completely mean just your paycheck. That's a component of it. But there's more life behind us in a sense of our history as human beings, as mankind, of men who have provided everything from teachings to guidance to infrastructure to inventions and so on and so forth. And those men, by and large, in the uber of amounts, in the billions of lives, have in most cases, we're not rich men. We're not financially savvy men. We're not wealthy men. In those times, it was understood a man's role, a man's position, and his value was baked into his DNA. His value was baked into his abilities. Now we live in a modern society that is saying to you, gentlemen, that not only do you have to be more man than the other men, but you have to be more men than the women that try to be men in the capacity of provisions. I just don't subscribe to that. And I don't want men to be putting undue pressure to try to compete at an economical level that is now sufficient for a lifestyle that a woman that you didn't have any guidance in creating the choices she made. And now you have to come along and save her from her choices, save her from her decisions, save her from her lifestyle that she chose. Otherwise, you're not a man. I don't subscribe to that. I think that's totally wrong. And there's a lot of men in this space that speak from that place. There's a lot of men in this space that try to invalidate other men and saying that, well, those men, can't speak unless they on this level. That's nonsense. The truth of the matter is it's mathematically impossible for every person to be rich and every person to be wealthy. Am I saying that a man should not strive to be his absolute best? Absolutely not. Anything that I've done up to this point on this channel will always tell you that I want the best for men. I want the best for what you're capable of doing. But I also want you to operate in a place that you understand what you are capable of and not put yourself in a category that you invalidate yourself because you are not in an economical level to save this mystery woman. No. If a woman shows up now in modern time, she's probably going to come with debt. She may even come with a child. And she's going to come with experience and history that you had nothing to do with. So why is that your responsibility? I don't subscribe to it. I don't support it. And I don't think men need to sit here and allow other people to paint a narrative and try to weigh and measure your manhood where you have ended up financially. You strive, gentlemen, to be your absolute best. You strive to create what it is that you want to create for your lifestyle, your dreams, your goals, your outlook, your imprint on society. If a woman comes along that path, comes along that way and wants to join forces and be a part of your program, great. But do not allow her to put pressure on you to now absolve her of the things that she chose to do and the life she chose to create. That was her choice, and it's not your responsibility. So anyway, that is what I wanted to discuss. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I so appreciate it. The channel is continuing to grow. Can't do it without you guys. Continue to support the channel. All I ask is that you like, and if you feel it necessary, to subscribe. This is Daniel Rucker with True Table, signing out. I'm coming to you with more content, and we're going to continue to rock this thing. You guys be easy.